Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Wednesday evening, November 29, 2023. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the day has been like in your area recently. Also, feel free to ask any weather related questions that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so let us take a look at what the United States Climate Prediction Center is showing on their Global Tropics Hazards Outlook. We can see that for the time period from December 6th to the 12th, as well as the time period from December 13th to 19th, we have some above normal rainfall being predicted. We can see those lighter shades of greens, and we can also see those darker shades of greens embedded within that. And we know that by the key on the bottom, all of that is representing some amount of above normal rainfall probability. And it's quite interesting considering that that's the month of December. We're entering our dry season, especially across Jamaica, and we're seeing predictions for an above normal dry season in terms of the rainfall. So it's gonna be interesting to see exactly what unfolds. If we even remember last week, there was another outlook from the Climate Prediction Center that had some amount of above normal rainfall for the first couple of days in December as well across the very same spots. So we shall see exactly what unfolds. We know sometimes the Climate Prediction Center can get the things right or wrong. It's just a matter of watching and staying updated to see what exactly unfolds. Taking a look at what the U.S. National Hurricane Center is showing on their 7-day graphical tropical weather look, we're at November 29. This update came out at 7 p.m. this evening. So we only have one more day left for us to, have a look at this map. Hopefully, in December, we're not going to be looking at it as the hurricane season wraps up in a day. So, yeah. So let us take a look at what the surface map of the Atlantic is showing. We can see that we have a trough right now, still across sections of eastern Cuba and Jamaica, and another cold front right there, stretching all the way from northern section of the North Atlantic all the way down into the Bahamas, as well as another cold front to the east of that one, stretching all the way down into portions of the southern Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, Cuba, and the northwestern Caribbean. Taking a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, you can see the clouds associated with that trough across portions of Jamaica, and it was responsible for some amount of thunderstorm activity across sections of southwestern Jamaica today. And we can also see the clouds associated with that cold front, or those cold fronts. It's actually two of them, stretching all the way from northern sections of North Atlantic, all the way down into portions of the Bahamas, Cuba, and Mexico. Alright, so we'll be talking more about the Caribbean weather later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today. If we remember yesterday's video, it was more in the way of some rainfall that was predicted for northern Jamaica, and majority of the island would have been receiving a fair day on Wednesday. So northern Jamaica, we know we're talking about Portland, St. Mary, St. Anne, Trelawney, St. James, Hanover, and what ended up happening. As early as 5:30 a.m., the Cuban Doppler radar images were posted to our Twitter page. Keep in mind that these many posts aren't only made on our Twitter page, but our Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok page. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there. So we can see that the Cuban Doppler radar images were showing some amount of greens, even some yellows, heading into sections of some northern parishes. That time, 5:30 a.m., we saw it coming into sections of northwestern St. Mary, St. Anne, section of Trelawney, as well as even portions of maybe coastal areas of St. James. And then for the most part throughout the day it was clear, but it was in the afternoon to late evening hours we started, or the early evening hours, sorry, we started to see some clouds popping up across sections of Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth, and some of those even made it up into the upper levels of the atmosphere. So they made it from cumulus clouds to cumulonimbus clouds. So we had that deep convection across sections of Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth. So we even saw some sparkling white dots that indicate some amount of lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes. And we even have confirmation of this rainfall. Apple775508 posted on our Instagram page confirming the rainfall. It is raining heavy in St. Elizabeth. Kimberly Ash 94. Here thunder and sky overcast in Sainty. So this indeed confirms the rainfall that we saw on the satellite images. Alright, so let us take a look at what we're seeing on the visible satellite images for today. You can see that for the most part it was a partly cloudy day. Then during the afternoon to early evening hours we saw that buildup of clouds, especially across the southwest. So definitely it was more favored to sections of Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth. And even if we take a look at the latest infrared satellite images, let's reload these images so we have the latest. So we can still see that thunderstorm activity right there off the coast of Westmoreland as we speak, still bringing some amount of thunderstorm activity, some bad weather to the waters to the south of Westmoreland. So fishers and marine interests should, be taking necessary precautions so that they're not drastically affected by what's out there. And we can also see that the upper level winds are blowing those high cold cloud tops off towards the east, southeast. And if the sun was out, we know that we'd be receiving some amount of overcast skies across sections of St. Elizabeth and Manchester. Maybe they're not going to be seeing the moon out for the early part of the night, maybe later on in the night when these clouds have dissipated. If we take a look at the Cuban Doppler radar images, quite interesting. Haven't seen these reds over the sea in a long time. It's usually just greens and yellows. We can see that there was some severe weather going on to the south of Westmoreland this evening. Right now starting to dwindle down. We can see by the last frame it made it back to at least some oranges, some strong thunderstorm. But it was up there in the severe, in the reds. That was quite interesting to see, especially considering that we're about to wrap up the hurricane season. So definitely this confirms the rainfall that we saw across those spots, the greens, the yellows, right there on the Cuban Doppler radar images. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can say we have 27 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 25 degrees Celsius in Kingston, and by 3 a.m. on Thursday, the temperature should dip down to about 25 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 21 degrees Celsius in Kingston. As relates to the temperature forecast for Thursday, this map is showing 18th on Thursday. When we calculate that, that's about 1 p.m. on Thursday. So we can see Jamaica embedded in some yellows and some slight oranges that represent 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures. I know the normal temperatures for the month of November, 88 degrees Fahrenheit. We take a look at the thermometer, 88 degrees Fahrenheit is about the same as 30 degrees Celsius. And considering that we're going to be receiving the yellows and oranges, that's going to be anywhere from 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures. So anywhere from 30 to 32 degrees Celsius is what is expected. As relates to the dry air map, we can still see that we have a lot of dry air across the central and eastern Caribbean stretching into the main development region, as indicated by those yellows, oranges, as you can see by the key on the bottom. We see that we have some moist air across the western Caribbean section of the southwestern Atlantic, where we have that cold front and the trough. So it makes sense that thunderstorm activity that we saw across section of the west of the island, it actually makes sense. We're having more moist air across those spots. Taking a look at the Saharan dust forecast for 2 p.m. on Thursday, we can see the forecast is clear in terms of what Jamaica is going to be expecting, because all of the Saharan dust is right there across Africa and the eastern main development region. As relates to the wave forecast, we can see the blues surrounding the island. When we take a look at the key at the bottom, these blues are representative of 1 meter wave height to at least 1.5 meter wave heights. And that's because the wind speeds are going to be averaging anywhere from 10 to 20 knots, as indicated by those blues and the greens, especially to the north and the south where we see those greens. You can see by the key on the bottom right, that's what's expected tomorrow. And the winds are going to be coming in from the east for the most part. If we're going to be receiving more in the way of thunderstorm activity, we still have that upper level wind coming in from the west northwest. So just like what we saw on the latest infrared satellite images, the high level clouds in the upper levels of the atmosphere are being pushed off towards the east southeast, bringing more in the way of overcast skies across sections of some southern parishes, and especially considering that the low level flow is coming in from the east, more in the way from the east northeast, especially across the northern parish portion of the island. And then we have all of that air piling up across the southern spots where we have those darker shades of blues. And we know what usually happens wherever we have that air piling up. That's where we have all of those clouds building, maybe formulating themselves into cumulonimbus clouds. So if we have a repeat of what happened today, maybe some more isolated thunderstorm activity across section of some southern parishes, even although tomorrow doesn't seem that promising in terms of the rainfall forecast. But the thing is, yesterday's forecast didn't call for that rainfall that sections of Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth are receiving or were receiving earlier this evening. But we shall see exactly what unfolds with that. As relates to the rainfall forecast, we don't see much, and we have these blues that represent rainfall coming onshore, but this is valid for 8 a.m. Jamaica time on both the U and the GFS. What we see on the GFS is some blues out to sea to the north of Portland, more in the way of blues across the waters to the north of Jamaica in general. So maybe some of this might meander and make it into or onto the shore right there, the coastal areas. For the most part, they seem to be at bay out at sea. As relates to the afternoon hours, this is valid for now 2 p.m. We do see some contrast, we see some differences. Some blues that represent rainfall across central parishes in Jamaica, as well as some western parishes. That's on the Euro, the GFS, not showing that much. Nothing at all, as a matter of fact, just one speck of blue that represents rainfall to the east of St. Thomas. So we shall see which one of these models win. We shall see exactly what unfolds. Either way, the accumulated precipitation forecast is in agreement that for majority of the island, it should be in the clear, more in the way of whites and grays than anything else. Only some isolated pockets of greens here and there on the Euro model. Either way, we'll take all the rainfall that we can get before we head into our dry season from December through to April. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So we can see that we still have some isolated pockets of clouds coming in from the east, northeast, into the section of the eastern Caribbean right there. Definitely a lot of activity still taking place across sections of Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica as usual, section of Honduras, Guatemala, Belize, and we can also see some isolated shower activity even spilling into sections of the Cayman Islands. Taking a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean, we can see that we didn't have much taking place across the Leeward Islands, but some isolated showers as we speak right there, anywhere from Guadeloupe southward to Dominica, hit or miss showers, St. Lucia, St. Vincent. Taking a look at the Barbados radar, we see that rainfall even better coming in from the east, northeast for the most part. Just some hit or miss isolated showers. Maybe Barbados might get in on some of that later on tonight. We can see some of that rainfall heading into sections of Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, maybe even going as far south as sections of Trinidad and Tobago later on tonight. As relates to the wider view of Doppler radar images, we can see that rainfall coming into sections of Belize, just like what we saw on the satellite images just now, northern Guatemala, Honduras as well. As relates to the temperature forecast across the Caribbean for Thursday, we can see that this map is showing 18 on Thursday. When we calculate that, that's 1 p.m. on Thursday, and we can see that for the most part, average temperatures to about some slightly above normal temperatures for the most part is what is being predicted across the entire Caribbean. Majority of the southeastern and eastern United States still receiving a lot of below average temperatures. As it relates to the Saharan dust forecast, majority of the Caribbean should be in the clear for 2 p.m. on Thursday, as majority of the Saharan dust is still across Africa and the eastern Mediterranean region. As it relates to the wave forecast for the Caribbean for Thursday, we can say that for the most part, majority of the Caribbean should be getting in on those blues that represent 1 to 1.5 meter wave height. And that's because the winds are not going to be that strong, coming in from the east for the most part, averaging anywhere from 10 to 20 knot, maybe some 25 knot pockets here and there, as you can see by those lighter shades of yellows within those greens. As it relates to the rainfall forecast, we can see the consensus for rainfall across sections of the Bahamas, eastern Cuba, sections of the eastern Caribbean as well. So anywhere from Guadeloupe southward, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, Barbados, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. Not so much across Grenada at all, but maybe some isolated showers across Trinidad, and we can see some across northeastern Venezuela, as well as sections of northern Guyana as well. Even sections of French Guiana or coastal areas of Suriname might get on some of that. Sections of Colombia as well, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, not so much for El Salvador, but definitely sections of Guatemala, Belize, and the southern Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. Maybe even spilling into sections of the Cayman Islands as well. I know that when both maps are showing something similar like this, the chance of actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.